Hello, fellow space travelers on this little rocket ship we call Earth. That was terrible, but we're rolling with it. This is CinemaTalk. Out.
Nice.
This is CinemaTalk,
Real nice.
Row Thirds, official podcast, rowthirds.com. Today's very exciting because we're finally talking about my most anticipated film of 2014, Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain. It's a big deal. Big deal. And so it's going to be a big discussion. So, without further ado, my name is Sean.
My name is Larry.
And my name is Max.
All right. Now that we all established our names, let's segue to the lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So, terrible intro aside, we are here to discuss Interstellar, and because it's such a ambitious movie, there's a lot going on, and it was shrouded in secrecy. We're going to do spoilers. However, we're going to start the podcast with spoiler-free, just overall thoughts and a score. So anyone who doesn't want it spoiled can just listen to the first few minutes and then stop listening until after you see the movie, hopefully. Because we want you to continue listening. And so that's what we're going to do. So don't worry, nothing's going to be spoiled until we say start spoiler. So with that said, where do we want to start? I kind of want Larry to start, then Max, then me.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah,
Don't know why I just
go.
picked that order.
If you so please. So just general thoughts and then a score. Is that all you're looking for right now?
Yes, keep it brief and then a score.
All right. So while Interstellar is definitely nowhere near Nolan's greatest film, it's definitely still an accomplishment. It's very engaging at times, and it probably has done more in this genre of space film than we've really ever seen before. Plus, add on all of the general obviousness. The acting is very good, the writing is solid, and the visuals are absolutely spectacular. But still, it just has a few drawbacks that leads it down to my personal score of a 7.5 out of 10.
All right. Max?
I give it 6 broken sound systems out of Christopher Nolan.
They weren't broke. Oh, man. This is not the... We will get to that. Max, seriously. Do your thing.
I don't know if... let's see. Hold on. Let me think. I don't know if Interstellar is Christopher Nolan's greatest work. I don't really know if it's really even that great of a film, but I really enjoyed myself. I think it's one of the movies that proves that you don't need, excellent everything to make a movie that people are really going to enjoy. And I personally really enjoyed Interstellar. Even if its narrative isn't exactly there and other parts of it don't exactly work, it still is a thoroughly enjoyable film, and I also give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Nice. Me and you, Max,
Wow.
we're on the same page.
Okay, well, I'm going to kind of break that trend a bit. I loved Interstellar. It's probably the least Nolan movie, but I don't say that as a bad thing. It is incredibly engaging, even though it's rather slow and very long. It has an incredibly just awesome aesthetic to it all the way through. It looks gorgeous. And the acting and just emotional part of the story is probably the most emotional Nolan's ever attempted, and I think he pulls it off for the most part. In that regard, it's arguably Nolan's most impressive, though it's still not my favorite. However, I still think it's an excellent film. Please go check it out. I give it a 9 out of 10.
All right, so we're all positive.
Oh, wait.
That's the
Okay,
good
so are
thing.
we done now? Are we done? Okay. Sean liked Interstellar?
My God.
Hey, I was doubting that. After some feedback saying that it's the most sentimental film he's done, I was actually kind of worried because that stuff he's not that good at.
Oh,
Now
God.
that I think
Christopher
about it.
Nolan is not good at intimacy. Oh,
Okay,
man.
so are we ready to get into spoilers?
Yeah, let's
what I was
let's dive
thinking
into
was
the
maybe we
spoilers.
just go through the film and talk about the things that first pop up. We could talk about the visual effects when we get to that
but
part.
First, let's just listener, if you haven't seen it, please. This is a movie we don't want to spoil because there's just a lot going on. If you haven't seen it, just go ahead and stop listening now. We forgive you. Again, to a 7.5, 7.5, and a 9. So I'd say you're pretty safe, at least in our opinion, to go see it. So click off. Now we start the spoilers.
Spoilers.
All right. Let's see. If we're starting from the beginning, Age of Ultron trailer is awesome. Okay, not that.
I think. I just want to say for the very
Not that
beginning,
far
I
back.
really liked how the movie began with these documentary-esque pieces. You know what I'm talking about? Like these interviews with older folk, how they're talking about the events that happened, that start the movie as if they happened in the past time, because it gets us to focus on other parts of the story rather than is this actually going to work out? Because let's be honest here. it would probably work out, and we have other things to worry about. So I liked how the movie started with, like, don't worry about the overall conflict, focus on the other parts of the story.
Sure, yeah. I think it's a little... Well, okay, I'm mixed on it, because I agree with you, but at the same time, I don't know, it's a little cliche to have, like, the, kind of documentary style explaining what's going on, and also it kind of removes tension for me. Like, hey, these people are talking about what Earth was like. Is Earth going to be okay?
But I would say the tension mostly came from the characters, not necessarily the Earth. I don't know.
Right, but I think they were tied together. A lot of it was tied together. So what the characters are doing was so tied to Earth that it kind of, I don't know, it lessened a little bit. But we don't need to dwell on this. This is first 30 seconds.
I just think that concept never really went anywhere. For me personally, I just noticed it and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's
I really
keep
liked
going.
it. I think it worked.
Anyway,
the next thing we should talk about, I guess, I would say, is the beginning of the film. It takes them a while to get into space, and I think that's a good thing, because it was very critical to establish the relationship between Cooper, Matthew McConaughey, and his daughter, Murph. I don't know the actor's name, but Jessica Chastain later in the movie. Mm-hmm. Did you guys think that was done well? Because I thought that was done very well.
The relationship you're talking about specifically?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the relationship was done fantastic. I thought that was a great element. I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly about the sentiment aspect of this film. There's one or two moments where I felt it was lacking a little bit, but besides for that, I think the chemistry between, like, the family dynamics that are going on here are fantastic. They work really well.
Two.
The problem in the beginning for me was that I think it was just really boring. Like, I think the first third of the film, I found my eyes were drifting a little bit.
That's embarrassing, honestly.
Excuse me, it's my personal opinion. I just think that some of the right towards the beginning, I mean, it doesn't really you're taking the first third of the film, and then you compare it to the last third, which is like so much more interesting as far as plot is concerned.
Well, yeah, you gotta build.
I know, but it just you said it yourself. It takes them a while to get into space, and I think it just takes a little.
That's good.
It takes a little too long, and for my personal opinion. Yeah. And even when they're in space, some of it just didn't really grab me. It wasn't until the wave scene, the scene with the gigantic tidal waves, that really finally got my interest. My eyes were glued at that very moment. I don't know. This was something my friends personally agreed with me with, but I know a lot of people who disagree with me on this. Including Sean, apparently. But that's probably my biggest gripe with the film. I just think the first hour was just at times it was snoozeworthy. But that's just my personal opinion. I just want to get that out there now, because there's really nothing else for me to go on about this long. So, anyway, moving on from that.
Max, what do you think about the beginning part, kind of the build up to when they leave Earth?
I think it was good. I think it was well paced. It established the characters. I don't know if I picked up on all the things that were going on. I don't really like the fact the entire movie is based on this literally astronomical coincidence. But I mean, I still liked it.
I was going to ask you about that. What coincidence?
You mean the coincidence that Wait, are you being serious? Like the fact is that the rift in space and time and of the entire universe is in Murph's bedroom? I mean, I would think that's a little bit of a coincidence instead of any other place in the freaking universe.
I don't think you listened at the end what was going on.
Oh God.
The whole point was they built... Okay, now we're jumping to the very end of the movie, but it's explained. It's explained very easily that the future humans, again, we're in spoilers, so I can say the future humans created that Tesseract, they called it, which is funny.
Yeah, I know. I thought about Marvel instantly right when I heard that.
They created that Tesseract explicitly for McConaughey because they chose Murph to say, they chose her to save the world. So they specifically made it her bedroom. It wasn't accidental. They were like, who's a good scientist mind that's going to save the world? And they put the Tesseract interactions there. They can do it wherever, because again, they made the wormhole.
Yeah.
Wait, are we talking about those fifth dimensional beings they were talking about? It wasn't a coincidence.
Those were future humans.
The fifth dimension.
Yeah, we evolved to different dimensions.
Right.
And we're not talking about the ones that he sees at the very end of the movie, not those humans.
What? No. That's like a few. That's like what 70 years later or something.
Yeah, those are actual humans.
Later.
Yeah, those are the ones that at the end of the movie are actual humans, like they're like normal humans.
Yeah, we never see the future humans.
Yeah.
They exist on a different dimension or something. They explained it. I've seen it. I did see it twice, so I can explain a lot more of the plot. Because again, it's a Nolan movie. There's a lot to.
Yeah, I think there's a good point to bring up here about the narrative specifically. Now, I will say that I mostly got what was going on. I was able to follow the bare minimum and a little more that the plot expects you to understand. You know, we need to find new planets because Earth's going to hell, and they go to all these different places and all these different plot, about Matt Damon's character appearing out of nowhere, which was a nice surprise.
That was great.
Which was a nice surprise.
That was such a nice surprise. It's amazing that they were able to keep it that secret.
Seriously.
Because think about it. This is Matt Damon, very big name.
Yeah.
And also, he was on quite a bit. Like, this wasn't Samuel Jackson one day on Iron Man. Samuel Jackson was on
set. He was a central character
one day,
to the second,
and it got leaked.
Yeah.
It got leaked. Matt Damon was on for weeks.
Yeah.
Judging by the size of his role. And yet it was never out who he was playing. I think it was rumored that he was on it, but it was never officially announced. But it was a great surprise to see Matt Damon come out of that.
Plus, you also got Topher Grace.
Obviously.
I don't know what the hell he's doing here, but for some reason Topher Grace found his way to be there. But the thing about Nolan's films, and this continues on with Inception, arguably with Memento, I wouldn't say for The Dark Knight, but mainly for those films, he packs a lot into his narrative, and he kind of... And a lot of people think, and obviously work on that thought, that it takes multiple viewings of Nolan's films to truly understand everything that's going on. I
don't know.
Is that a good thing?
I know, that's what I was about to bring up.
Yes.
I was going to bring it up. I think...
No. It's not that it requires multiple viewing to understand. It's that there's enough that it rewards multiple viewings.
Right, I just need to finish my point.
Especially Memento.
I need to finish my point real quick, because I just need to encapsulate it. I think that a movie should not require multiple viewings in order to understand the main plot. If there's so much going on in the movie that there are interesting details that might help explain the plot a little better, then sure, watch it multiple times, go ahead. But I think it's important on a one-time viewing, the audience needs to understand what's going on. And I think that, for the most part, Interstellar does that. The only times it kind of fades out is when it starts putting all these science mumbo-jumbo together, and it starts kind of lessening the understanding. But I think this is better in its narrative execution than I feel Inception was, in some respects. Personally, I found Inception harder to understand at a first viewing than this was.
See, this is you bring up Inception, so I'm going to point this out. I think Interstellar and Inception are almost identical in one way, and that's in everyone's like, oh my goodness, I can't follow it. Like, I got to get a PhD to understand it, and you really don't. I think you're really, if you just engage in the movie fully, if your eyes aren't drifting off, theoretically speaking, I think you'd pick up on it. Because I really don't think it's that complicated for you to... They explain it pretty simply about what's going on. And I think it's even easier to follow than Inception.
I don't know.
Let's also not forget the fact that, at a certain point, Cooper is actually saying that we made it here ourselves and not chosen by some beings. Remember that?
Yeah.
He says it's a SARS. SARS? TARS? Whichever one.
TARS?
Yeah, what about
SARS. Well, I mean, instead of being chosen by these other dimensional humans, he says we actually made it here by ourselves.
Well, no, it's a time loop. They sent themselves. Groundhog got the gravity message, so he'd go to space, fall into the black hole, and send the gravity message. I love time loops.
Yeah. I mean,
it's logic that can only exist.
Again, plot's easy enough to understand for the most part, but I think it does reward multiple viewings.
And I think it's a great plot, and I want to talk also about the science, because that's a huge part of Interstellar.
It really
it's one of the
is.
few films that if you look on the credit stuff, it's based on an academic textbook. A lot of that's part of the things it's based off of, because it's based around real theories.
Oh yeah, of course.
And it's fact.
It has to be.
It's based on both.
Yeah, it's based around real theories. I just wish they wouldn't flaunt that so much in the dialogue.
What do you mean?
The fact that they keep explaining so much of this stuff instead of just letting things happen and letting things be a transcendent cinematic experience. Does it though?
It's a good question, because we seem to be kind of debating a line here.
I do. Okay, Max, I want you to tell me a scientific thing that's involved in the film that you would be fine not being explained.
All
Like,
the things,
like-
throughout the entire time that Cooper is in the black hole, all of that. When he's talking to TARS on the phone, he could just he could just let that be completely silent and just have that experience be for the audience instead of just him talking, going, oh my god, all these things. You can like explain that in a different way, not while it's happening. That was seriously taking me out of that part. As brilliant as that part was, and still is a pretty goddamn brilliant part, it still took me out.
I'm sorry, your main character just fell into a black hole and then appeared in like this weird time 3D city thing going on. I feel like 90% of audience needed that dialogue. Like, I think like I got what was going on, but yeah, I would defend that decision. Especially because it's the end. You want to make sure everyone's with you emotionally, like what's going on. It's crucial that people understand what's going on then. You know?
I think what made the one moment of like sciencey stuff that kind of got me out of it was Wes Bentley's exposition dump when they're all in that conference room. I listened to all of it and I took it all in, but I'm just like, it kind of, not only did it bore me, I sort of wish that they could have, found a more visual way to explain.
See, that's the thing. The first half of Inception isn't that great because it's so filled with exposition, but it's all for the second half to have no exposition. It could just go full force. I think Interstellar has that same thing.
It does.
Yes, there's a lot of science overload, but if you get it, that lets them execute without having to update you all the time.
It's true.
I think it's a necessary evil to accomplish the greater picture, better film. Even if this particular scene is weighed down because of it. I think it's all for the greater good.
I don't know.
Max, I set you up for an Edgar Wright reference and you didn't go with it.
Oh, well. Anyway, so is there anything else we should mention about the sciencey stuff?
Well, I like how accurate it is. I've read a lot of articles, seen videos, physicists saying that most of it is pretty spot on.
Yeah, even Neil deGrasse Tyson, for the most part, Neil deGrasse Tyson endorses Interstellar, at least the science behind it.
And that was funny because he just tore apart Gravity.
I know.
And like Gravity's gimmick was it's a realistic sci-fi film, and it's not as sound as Interstellar,
Nope.
where you jump through a wormhole and there's time.
Well, I think that's because mainly Interstellar deals with such an unknown idea.
That's true. Yeah.
Wormholes,
that's fair.
black
fair.
holes.
That's a benefit. They said theoretically
fifth dimension.
That's
I think one of my favorite parts of the science that they do, like, I don't know if this is part of science, but I do like how the characters make time as like a quantifiable source, like a resource.
That's great.
And I think that you could totally make an entire theory that Interstellar is all about filmmaking using that one example, because in filmmaking, time is a precious resource.
That's a bit of a stretch. Nothing. Mac, you and your "it's about" theories.
Maybe one day we'll see a thought process about it. Anyway, so now can we move on from science stuff? Because I really want to talk about the visuals. Because I'm very excited to talk about the visuals.
The visuals are pretty goddamn great.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
I think it's good that we got a different cinematographer because, I don't know, I feel like the style of Wally Feister, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Anyway,
Wally
he was
Feister?
Nolan's cinematographer.
Yeah. But no. Let's not forget. This is Hoyt van Hoytema. That's not how you pronounce it, probably. But this is the guy who did the cinematography for Her.
Yes.
We're talking like a fucking genius right now.
Yeah, seriously. This guy is so talented with just how he handles tones
I'm glad
and
because
everything like that. Oh, it's great.
I don't know how his style would translate. More I think about it, I don't know how his visuals would translate, but this guy clearly gets space stuff. And I think something people will start realizing is that space just inherently gives your film an engaging, pleasing aesthetic. Like just the pitch black outside and like the cleanliness of it all, it like automatically looks good. And Interstellar's no exception. It has a cool feel to it. I like being in these ships. And part of that is that it was all practical. They built these big sets for the spaceships, and they went the extra mile to make it feel real.
Yeah, there's a lot of realistic
stuff. On that note, I think my favorite effect in the entire film is actually TARS. I genuinely love that design. I really do.
Yeah, TARS has a great design. Now, we'll get to characters, so I'll hold my comments on TARS and how awesome he is. But yeah, great design. And they said it's good. Like on Earth, it's okay. It's a decent vision of, kind of post. Everyone talks about the breakdown of a modern society and stuff. It's a good after that. what happens after that? Well, everyone just kind of becomes farmers in order to get food to survive.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good vision of the future.
And it's not overdone either.
It's not bad. It's not like a bleak vision, but it's not like a optimistic one.
Oh no,
it's just kind of neutral.
We're reliving the Dust Bowl. It's not an optimistic vision, but I think it's very subtle in a way. It's very like, you know what? This is probably what would happen, and we're not gonna make it all futuristic or anything, but we're not gonna make it like we're living, during the olden times. All right, it's a very honest, interpretation of what could possibly happen, and I appreciated that a lot, especially the Dust Bowl thing. I think that was a good concept to go with, as far as visually with the dust and the dust storms and things like that. The sound editing is very good during those points. Just wanted to bring that out.
Yeah.
But the main visual I love is the fifth dimension visual. Right?
Of course.
When he's in the fifth dimension, overall, that was a brilliant idea.
Well, he wasn't in the fifth dimension. He was in a Tesseract.
Well, right, the Tesseract.
Made by fifth dimensional beings.
Made by the fifth dimensional people.
This is not so hard to follow, Larry. They're fifth dimensional beings creating a Tesseract in the third. What? I don't understand.
Anyway, I think just the idea was great about how it's all in Murph's room and everything like that. But I think the way they executed it was so visually smart, because they essentially took the idea they had in their head and they made it look like that.
Yeah, I was worried for a while. Because when he appeared, I was thinking, "Oh no, is that what they're saying time looks like? That's stupid." But then Tars instantly says they made it 3-dimensional so you could understand, and then it's like it totally fixes it. And in that case, it's a great 3D representation of what time could look like. Like they did a great job there.
Yeah, it's just infinite. It felt when he's falling through that Tesseract, it feels infinite, like just the patterns going down and down.
That felt like Space Inception. Like he dropped in, the music hit. I'm like, oh my god, it's Space Inception.
But that was
Max. Do you have any favorite visual?
Well, yeah, I mean that that black hole was kind of incredible. I really like the Let's see. I love the wave. The wave was like insane. I like my jaw.
Okay, so that was. It's hard to like get me to like cower in a movie. But that waves actually scared me. Like both times, the way they pull off how big that wave is.
And I thought it was like a mountain.
Me.
I thought it was a mountain too, just like they did.
It scared me.
It looked like
when it just does that pan up shot from below. It's just too intense, too much.
Yeah, too much.
Yeah.
I think.
Anyway,
and then they had those.
And then also I really liked what the space colony looked like at the end of the movie. I really liked that.
Sorry, what? You cut out a bit?
The space colony. At the very end of the movie.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Yeah. I mean, this was a very visually pleasing movie, but it never went over the top with it. I liked that
it didn't.
It felt pretty grounded, even when you jumped into a Tesseract. Like, it
doesn't go for like the really like easy, like, look at the space nebula, look how pretty that is. I mean, the space nebula is pretty, but like that's an easy way to like make space look visually appealing. Here's some guys who made some interesting visual effects out of stuff that were just like basically theories at first.
And I think
my personal favorite visual, just I want to throw this in because you guys did yours, is the wormhole itself. Yeah, where they approach a sphere that's like an inside-out globe, and so like the view from that point is the outside of it, and it's just this totally surreal space orb in space, and it just looks so interesting. Like I've never seen anything like that. They visualized it wonderfully. So that's my favorite visual. It's just the wormhole itself.
I think the great part, the best part about the visuals really was that, listen, guys, we're going to planets, right? We're going to these different lands. It hasn't been touched.
Those were all cool planets.
Yeah, they haven't been touched by anyone. We can't expect to see lush green grasslands, everywhere.
Right.
We're
glad
seeing
they kept it fairly
bleak,
realistic.
one-note lands, but at the same time, you like those gray mountains, like one color mainly, well, two, gray and white, really, we're seeing because it's snowing there. But really, that's what we have to go for. And I think even with that one-note idea, they still added a lot of texture to it, and they made it interesting to look at, despite the fact that it was the same thing over and over again.
See, why I'm okay with it being one-note worlds is because I felt like they were much younger worlds. Like, Earth at one point was just lava and some rocks.
Yeah.
One note that. And then it formed all the other stuff. So I feel like these are planets that, instead of lava, are ice or are just, like, water pretty much. Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess it's really shallow water, which was interesting.
Yeah.
But they just haven't formed other distinct features yet. So I totally forgive them for kind of being one-note planets.
I think it was necessary to do that.
Yeah.
Just because of how bleak it was. No one's been there before. Why do you expect anything to actually have happened? But yeah, visual spectacular.
Max, anything on the planets? Any more in visuals? Like, we can move on.
I do wish. Okay, maybe this is a personal thing. I do wish there was some kind of vegetation planet instead of the rock quarry, wave, and then ice. Like, or maybe something a little bit more interesting looking, because we had like basically just 3 different biomes. You know?
Well, really, it was nerfed Camino from Star Wars.
Yeah,
it was.
That's actually true.
Steroids Hoth from Star Wars, and it was Mars.
Yeah,
like
Mars
the third
really
planet
was
we
the
briefly
last
saw. It was pretty much Mars.
Yeah, I could see that.
But again, I think they're just younger planets, and also, Max, I mean, think about it. Like, yes, we're lucky enough to jump galaxies, but still, the odds of finding more organic life is very slim.
Yeah, here's a question for you guys. Do you wish they would have included some sort of like life form? Maybe not like humanoid life form, but like something.
No, I was afraid there was going to be alien life. I did not want aliens in this movie.
Okay.
All right. Well,
that's just when I went in. Like, I did not want aliens in it. And so when they were talking about other life forms, like, I hope it's not aliens. Like, I hope there's some twist there. And yeah, sure enough, it was just future humans, pretty much aliens, but not quite.
Not quite.
So now I think we can move on to the characters and just the emotional side, because this is the most emotional film Nolan's done, is in like its focus. Like, Inception's got its climax with Cobb and stuff, but this is something different. This is much more focused on, I don't know, it feels more human than most Nolan movies, and I'll admit Nolan's movies are pretty cold, but I think they work in that right.
Yeah.
But I think this is definitely warmer.
Yeah, the story goes that Steven Spielberg was supposed to direct this, like way back in 2006.
By the way, I read what the Spielberg movie would have been. I think this is a much better film.
Oh, okay.
This story is better.
What was it going to be?
Yeah.
Well, that can be for another time. Oh, did you guys not read it?
No, I didn't read it.
It involves
I just read a news article saying that, like,
robots.
in 2006, Steven Spielberg signed on for a space movie. That's it.
And then Nolan took over because it was Jonathan Nolan's story. Anyway, characters. Let's start with the. We're in the middle of the reconnaissance. Matthew
Really?
McConaughey.
Reconnaissance?
Yeah, everyone's saying that.
Really?
That isn't just me.
Really?
I'd love to take credit,
I've
but it's
never heard that before.
Well, now
I guess I have to start saying it.
Do you frequent Twitter?
McConaughey. Yeah, seriously. Twitter uses it all the time.
The McConaughey.
Okay, enough Twitter talk. McConaughey.
Wow.
I liked him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too. I think it was a great lead.
Yeah, he felt very... Like, I don't know. Okay, maybe it is kind of the context, but Nolan characters are usually much more, like, withdrawn. And that's because he has a lot of influence from film noir. But this guy, he felt like just a normal person. He was pretty open. He was pretty warm with others. And he just felt more, maybe genuine than other Nolan characters. I think he was written just warmer. That's kind of a thing that's going to repeat during this segment, because that is why I don't think it feels much like a Nolan movie.
Right.
Is it's warmer. It's not quite as cold and distant. And I think, he's a great actor. I mean, he blew me away in Dallas Buyers Club. That's probably a better performance, but...
Well, that's just it's a much more drastic performance, really.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's so weird, because towards the beginning of this movie, I was just watching all this stuff go down, and I really wasn't that interested, as I mentioned before.
Yes, we know.
And it wasn't just because of the plot, it was also because I didn't really find the characters too... I mean, obviously they felt real, but maybe that was to their downfall to a sense. Like, they just didn't see anything. And then the emotional relationships really started to beef up. And that's when we saw their emotional sides. And that's when I truly felt like McConaughey was showing his true self. That scene where he's watching the tapes of his family and he's just crying.
I think he's going to get an Oscar nomination.
That was just heartbreaking. That scene was just...
Yeah, the scene where he's watching the tapes from his kids.
Yes.
It's an amazing scene.
And then it's even worse when you see, Anne Hathaway and her relationship with Michael Caine's character, especially when we all find out that it was all just a scam towards the end. By the way, that is Michael Caine, usually in the movies I've seen, he plays kind of a happy character. That's the darkest scene I've ever seen Michael Caine do, and he did it very well. Anyway, McConaughey stuff, Max? Any more McConaughey?
He was really good. I don't really have much to add, because I often find that Nolan movies really aren't actor movies. Like, I mean, they have good performances, obviously, but they're really more about like the concepts at play. With the exception, of course, of Heath Ledger and all that stuff. So, I mean, I really wasn't paying attention to the actors.
He forced that to be an actor movie. Like, he just slammed in there and said, "I'm going to steal the show."
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
yeah.
I mean, I wasn't paying attention to it, but I really did like. I guess I liked the character. McConaughey's performance was fine, but I really liked the character and how he was. He was a guy who believed in science and hope, and he was always very positive about it. Because I mean, Nolan movies are often very dark, and it's good to have a character that's like pretty like confident and has a lot of self-esteem and just like, we have to do this for the human race.
I really love the scene where he's in the office with the teacher and they're talking about the Apollo landing. I'm just like, oh my god, really? And Matthew McConaughey is just there. And he's like, I think I'm going to take her to a baseball game. He just walks in, like, nope, I got
he finally. This is the first time in a Nolan movie where the character is a successful everyman.
Yeah, and it's a nice change of pace.
Yeah,
I like it.
Okay, so I guess second we should talk about Anne Hathaway.
Mm-hmm.
I think she did well.
Typical Anne Hathaway for me, and I think that is not an insult. I mean, Anne Hathaway is very good naturally.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I like that there was no romantic subplot.
Oh,
I think
thank
that
God.
just would have been a really dangerous. I don't think it would have been done well, nor did it fit the story at all. So I'm glad they avoided that.
And it almost got there.
Nolan. He's
you
one of the most
feel it
non-sexual
trailing.
filmmakers out there.
Wait, two of you were talking and I couldn't hear.
Sorry.
What?
Nolan's one of the most non-sexual filmmakers out there. Non-sexual storytellers, more like.
That's better.
Yeah,
That's
I guess
a better
so.
way to put it. I just think Anne Hathaway's very good at being natural. And I feel that Anne Hathaway was being Anne Hathaway in a spacesuit. And I have no problem with that. And the same goes for, Wes Bentley and Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine. We talked about
Michael Caine.
One quick thing on Anne Hathaway, though, I just want to bring up why I think it was a really good performance is because in the trailer, that line comes up where she's talking about love is the one thing that transcends time and space, right?
Yep.
Actually, it's gravity, but whatever. That line always made me like, oh, is that going to be like a really hard scene to watch? Like, is it going to be kind of cringeworthy because it's Nolan and he's trying to pull off that? But actually, she sold that concept so much, and I'm like, that kind of makes sense. Like this inexplicable force, pulling and guiding us. Can it be quantified? Like, it actually, she sold me on it with that scene. So congratulations, Anne Hathaway. Melted my cold heart. My cold Nolan loving heart.
Cold Nolan loving heart.
Anyway, I guess the minor characters, that's about it. Like, again, they kind of died off. Oh, man. That was such a shocking death at the wave.
Oh,
yeah. I did not
Bentley.
see that coming.
Wes Bentley? Mm-hmm.
That might have been...
All the deaths kind of, came out of nowhere for me.
Okay. Matt Damon, one of the best deaths this year. That scene was just
in this
amazing.
moment...
Yeah, he starts doing
that
was so well done because it's like, oh, he's going to launch into another soliloquy, and then this incredibly loud sound comes from, I think, just the left side of the theater.
Yeah.
At least when I was watching. Just this incredibly loud, it probably blasted out audio levels, but only for a half second, and then it cuts to complete silence, and we see this devastation.
Oh, yeah, I felt that scene. That scene definitely reminded me a lot of Gravity.
Yeah.
But in a good way, though, because... Gravity may have had a little its shock value might have been a little bit too quick too many times, but the times when it was
Interstellar only used that once.
Yeah, that was Interstellar only used that
once.
shock, that crazy shock value thing one time, and it was
for
masterful how they handled.
For whom the Matt Damon told.
That's probably one of the most engaging parts of the movie. That whole sequence where he's trying to
that was intense.
to latch on. Intense. It's great, and then they do it a second time, and it's still as engaging. Latching on, jeez.
Do you have anything else? Oh, by the way, I think Matt Damon did pretty well, but he wasn't given too much. He did fine, but
he did. Okay. He was Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. I don't have anything else to add character wise, but I think we can all agree this is the most emotionally based Nolan movie.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
he pulled it off.
Yep, definitely.
You guys gave it 7.5, so I guess you say as well that he pulled it off.
Oh yeah, I think that is probably the. I don't know. I'm debating whether or not which is the best part, the emotional aspect of it or the visuals. But I think the emotional aspect, the emotional aspect really does pack a punch, and in many different ways. It's not just, there are so many different kinds of emotional relationships that are going on. There's a relationship between father and daughter, two different relationships, and then there's also the relationship between teacher and student, with Michael Caine and Jessica Chastain, which I think also goes very well. Although
Chastain was really good.
Yeah, Chastain was good.
Oh yeah, we forgot Jessica Chastain.
And
she was very good.
Minnie Affleck. Benny Affleck.
Yeah.
He had a small role.
But
I thought it was good.
He was just the kind of. I actually liked how not necessary, not important, unimportant that character was. Like the focus was Cooper and Murph.
Yeah.
Son wasn't that important.
Not every character can be the most important.
Anyway,
but what about Tars? What about Tars?
Tars was
we
freaking
gotta
great.
get to Tars. Tars is awesome.
That robot is probably my favorite character in the whole movie.
Tars
It's probably
is
my
the
favorite
funniest
robotic
character
design. in any
Yeah,
movie.
I love the design. I love how he goes
It's
to the
funny
four
'cause you-
spokes to move around. I love that
Yeah,
idea.
so you see that design and you're like, that's not a very smart design, but then you see what it can do with that design, you're like, wow, that's a really smart design.
I really wish they went into like the back, like how he was created or something like that. I would love to
Yeah.
see his
And-
relationship with Michael Caine. You know?
That is probably the most unique robot design I've seen in forever.
Oh yeah! Oh, I
It was
love
very
that.
unique.
Unique. It was
design.
also
I
really
really
cool.
appreciate
It worked. It was, and we had a good comic relief character.
And it wasn't too annoying too. His comic reliefs
No,
were
it wasn't annoying
simple,
at all.
subtle.
It was the best part.
And I would say his truly hilarious
Tars is
moments
awesome.
were few and far between. But there were still kind of some nice quips he had every now and again, which
Yes,
were very well
definitely.
appreciated. So, yeah.
And also just so glad they never went down the evil robot road.
Oh, that he turns
Huh?
evil?
It just-
yeah.
Oh no,
There was
they
the
wouldn't.
shot when Jessica Chastain calls the station and she's like, "Did you know it was a complete sham?" And it shows one of the robots slowly walking up to the monitor, watching it. I'm like, "Oh, come on! No, please don't have the robot deleted or something." And they didn't, thank goodness. So yeah, so glad. That's a good thing to address right now. There are a lot of like tropes of the sci-fi film that they totally avoided. No aliens. There's no evil robot. It's a space epic.
Yeah.
It's just a space adventure, and it does its own thing. There's very few. It goes down very few treaded paths, that you could like name and identify. That doesn't mean like everything's super unique and all that, but it didn't fall into a lot of cliches that the Spielberg version did. So go check that out. Slash Film has it. They're a really good site, and yeah, it falls into a lot of the tropes that this version did not, and I really appreciate that. But on a final note with the emotional, do you guys want to talk more about like the emotional side / characters? Do you have anything?
I'd like to see it done again, and maybe Christopher Nolan will like have it a little bit more honed down, because it did feel kind of like it felt a little bit half-handed. Like he wanted to be himself. He wanted to have his own directorial style, very cold, very like very very unemotional, storytelling. But he also wanted to incorporate a little bit more. I want it like next time. I hope it's like all out. Like he tells an emotional story.
Well, I think
We could see.
I don't know. I think the main reason that this movie worked so well with the emotional flow is because I noticed that like half of the characters in this movie, arguably all of them, are just playing themselves. Really, I mean, their personalities are what we've seen outside of the screen. Really, for a lot of these
Sure.
actors.
I guess I can kind of get behind that, but not full.
Yeah, not. I mean, arguably, there are probably a few characters that you argue that maybe Jessica Chastain specifically. But
she probably had the most.
yeah, because she was kind of
I
aloof.
guess.
I would say she was much more aloof here than she would probably be normally. But like Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway. So because of that, they feel like normal people, and because of that, the emotional impact is stronger because like they're just people. They're people like you and me, and they're making a huge sacrifice here, and I commend them for that.
Also, young Murph. I want to bring that up. The young Murph, very impressive for child.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, she's not like
definitely.
that young, but that was impressive. She pulled off the scenes that needed to be done really well to sell the relationship before he left. Like, she did a great job.
I would like to say one quick little side note: when Michael Caine is dying, am I the only one that had trouble understanding what he was saying?
I didn't. Everyone's saying that? I didn't.
I
maybe
feel
a
there's a
little bit,
problem
yeah.
in Nolan movies sometimes where people are crying so intensely you can't make out what they're
But it's
saying.
the Michael Caine cry. It's
Michael Caine, correct.
I try to you
Anyway.
can't. You just can't.
Anyway, one final note on the emotional side. I just want to say that I'm a big fan of Nolan's movies, and all of them leave me satisfied plot-wise, but this is kind of the first Nolan movie that I was emotionally satisfied. Like I was invested enough that I demanded a good resolution for the emotional side, and I got it. That's how I'd put it. Like story-wise, they're really well-written stories, all that, but this was the first time it was like emotionally good resolution. It felt good.
Yeah,
So
I understand.
that's my final word
I
on the
understand
emotion
that.
part.
I got you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, is that kind of the end? Like, what else do we want to really talk about?
Writing was pretty damn good. I mean, pretty good for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very Nolan-esque writing. It feels like Nolan really had a huge part in this, and
yeah, Jonathan Nolan has a style.
And it really feels like an auteur piece. All
I don't know.
over.
See, I would argue that I don't know if this felt very Nolan. Like story-wise, kind of.
Okay, just because it doesn't feel
Nolan, but...
okay. Well, I mean, okay. Let's say this: when I saw The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which was Ben Stiller even called it himself, really his auteur film. Sure. It didn't feel too Ben Stiller for me, but it still could be a very personal project for him.
Ben Stiller isn't like an established director like Nolan is.
Well, he's an established actor.
This didn't feel like his other movies.
I guess so, but I still feel that the emotional impact here it makes me want to believe that Nolan really wanted to have more of a dramatic punch, and I would not be surprised at all if the events in this film are based off of personal events. And that might be why this movie packs such an emotional punch. I mean, I've been hearing interviews about Interstellar, and even after the movie's released, Nolan is still very, I know it's Interstellar, and we had a lot of fun making it, and there are some interesting science parts about it, and that's about it. Like he never really goes too in depth about any of his films.
Yeah, he always kind of stays out of the press loop.
Yeah, and he leaves it to the viewer, which is admirable in a sense. Yeah. But there's something about this film that makes me feel like it came more from his heart rather than his mind.
Very possible. Very possible.
And
so,
that's it.
Do we want to do like closing comments?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, and restate scores, I guess.
Yeah. Who's going first?
I've been talking a bunch, so Max, why don't you?
Yeah, I really did enjoy Interstellar. Again, I don't think it's the most well-constructed piece of Nolan filmography that I've seen from him so far, but I was still very impressed. And honestly, even if the base doesn't hold up together that well, the fact that it still works and works very well and provides an extremely entertaining experience is kind of a testament to the filmmaking medium itself. So I'm gonna be easy on this one. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. And
Larry?
I'll go. Again, as I stated before, it's definite. I do think that Nolan has far better films. I just feel that I think the first third could have had a little better pacing, and I feel the narrative could have been explained a little bit better, just so that we can fully get the emotional drive. But besides for that and a few other small nitpicks, this is an accomplishment. I respect this movie greatly for what it was able to accomplish. It took real science, and it was able to actually, theories and all that, but it was able to actually present a story that would be so unknown, because these concepts are not easy to understand. Black holes, wormholes, fifth dimension, but it takes concepts that are so ambiguous, and it puts it into a plot that allows the viewer to truly invest itself within the characters and the writing. And I feel that really, it might not be like my favorite or really the best, but I personally think on many levels it is the most impressive Nolan film to date.
I feel like 7 years has passed since Larry started talking.
It's been something like 23 years.
Oh man, so long. So
anyway,
again,
he fell into a time slippage.
Yeah, but yeah,
you just never stopped talking.
Thanks, Max. So I'm going to once again give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I recommend it wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, not to repeat, I guess I would emphasize just how engaging the movie is. It's been a while since... See, I've always wanted, I like blockbusters a lot. I hate when people talk down to blockbusters.
Oh, God,
I love blockbusters,
the
big action flicks, especially superhero movies, that's the new big thing. But I've been craving just a slow, long, it's like a novel. This was a space adventure. It felt like it should be this slow. It isn't lightning fast like a lot of Nolan movies or a lot of just blockbusters in general. And I wanted something kind of slower. I also wanted something, a little more higher concept. And this is using, actual science with time-space relativity. And it's probably the most engaging movie I've seen this year. I don't know if it's the best, don't know if it's my favorite, but I feel safe in saying it's the most engaging film I've seen this year. So please go check it out. I was tempted to put it 0.5 more, but I'm just going to play it safe and give it a 9 out of 10.
Smart move.
Yeah.
It is very engaging. I agree, it is very engaging. But man, I have seen a lot of engaging films over the last 2 weeks, so it's hard to say.
I guess that wraps up our Interstellar review. Tune in next time. I believe we're doing Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1.
Mock all the Jays. It's going to be good.
Yes.
All of them. We're gonna mock them.
We're going to mock the Jays.
There go those Jays. We shall mock them. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Please go check out Interstellar. It's stellar.
Yeah, that was weak. You should have had
until
more
next
build up
time.
to
It's
Until next time.
good.
It's really good.
I like that. Until then, my name is John.
My name is Larry.
And my name is Max.
And if you can't tell, my humor setting is at 100%. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.